Hi, I'm Crystal. Today I made a set of cards using the Sizzix Tim Holtz Funky Floral Wreath set. So I started out by getting out some scrap paper and applying some ink to the scrap paper. Now, I don't know that this really made any difference in the final product at all. I felt really artistic while I was doing it, but I don't really think it made a big difference. But here you can see my scrap paper after I applied my ink. Yeah, there's some color variations, so maybe. Then I got out my die set, and this is a recent product. This is a From the Vault release from Tim Holtz, and just put my stack of dies, as well as an older set, Silhouette Birds, with the paper that I wanted to use for my die cuts. And got out my set of silicone baking cups. And I really like to use these when I'm die cutting like this because I can put each type of die cut into the little silicone cup, and that really helps me keep all the pieces together as I'm going. So I got out my die cut machine, and I've bought every Sizzix Big Shot accessory over time. I really have. I've got the chrome base plate, and I've got the magnetic base plate, and really Magic Mat. Magic Mat is the way to go. You really get nice, precise die cuts. So I got out my dies, my scrap paper, my Magic Mat, and I just went to town. Now, some people find this tedious. I don't mind it. I like die cutting. So you kind of have to gauge for yourself whether this is something you want to do. And I will admit that this took really quite a lot of time. I made about a dozen cards, and so as you go through and die cut all this stuff, that does take a while. The dies are really well made. I didn't have any trouble getting the die cut pieces out. And one of the things that I really liked about the dies in this set is that if you've got pieces that go together, like if you have a flower and a center, they're on the same die. So once I got all the dies done, I just picked out some backgrounds. This is some pattern paper that I had already cut long ago. Some of it is some Stampin' Up! Pattern paper. Some of it is from Close to My Heart. But I just picked out an array of pattern papers that seemed to go with my theme here. And once I had that picked out, I just took my little cups of die cut pieces and kind of dished them out so I had a roughly equivalent number of die cut birds and die cut flowers and die cut leaves and, you know, wreath pieces to go with each card. I probably won't end up using all of the die cuts, but I'll have a nice array for each one. So I could have attached some double-sided adhesive to my paper before I started die cutting, but I opted to go with glue. So I've got an art glitter glue bottle here, although it has ceased to be art glitter glue a long time ago on the inside of that bottle. I've just been refilling it with a mixture of whatever glue I had around. It's probably mostly Elmer's Extra Strong at this point. I think the craft glue is a little nicer. That art glitter glue is a very nice product, so is the Bearly Arts. But there's such a wide array of prices on glue, and I think in the end what you're really paying for is the dispenser. I did a video a while back where I did the math on this, and I was really kind of shocked to realize that when I bought the little glue pens that hold a half an ounce or an ounce, that I was paying 30 or 40 times as much for a glue pen as I was for a bottle of glue. And I know that what's in the glue pens is not 30 or 40 times nicer. And the same math really applies when you're talking about double-sided tape. Anytime you're buying the double-sided tape in a plastic housing, like a tape runner, you're paying quite a bit for that plastic housing. And the tear tape, like score tape and similar items, is much more economical, just like a 16-ounce bottle of glue is much more economical than a 1-ounce glue pen. So I'll link to that video at the end if you want to check out my methodology and see if you agree with me. So anyway, I got out my liquid glue and I just started building my wreath. I had my array of flowers and my bird, and I didn't have any particular methodology in mind when I got started. But of course, if I were putting together an actual wreath of flowers, I would want to have some flowers spread around to the various parts of the wreath. I wouldn't want to put everything in one spot and have it very unbalanced, and so I was doing that with my paper flowers as well. A little bit of pink on every side, a little bit of yellow on every side, and just spread the leaves around a little bit. So since this is a gift set and I'm going to give the blank cards to someone else to use, I'm not going to attach a sentiment to these cards. I did prepare some die cut words and some sentiment strips, ran those through my Xyron, and put those on a piece of acetate to include with the cards in my gift set. But I'll let my recipient select whether it's going to be a birthday card or just a happy hello card or whatever it's going to be before they send the card out. So as I got down towards the end, I did realize I had, more die cut pieces than I need. I will just set those aside for some other project. I'm sure they'll come in handy in a junk journal or some other card. I think the die cutting never goes to waste. But, if you wanted to plan in advance, I understand people do that, and I respect that. It's just, I don't have it in me. So once all this stuff is assembled, I will go ahead and attach this to the card base, as I will for all of my different wreath pieces, and we will take a look at those and see how they turned out. Okay, so here are the finished cards, and I have quite an array in this particular color series. So I would say these are definitely appropriate for any spring or summer greeting. Lots of pink and yellow and purple and a little bit of orange. Nice soft pastel backgrounds. I think those turned out really nice. I like the birds on there as a focal point, and my recipient really likes birds, so that works out. Then I did a couple that were very autumn themed. So here I only used orange berries and sunflowers with black birds. And then I did a couple that were winter themed, where I used red cardinals and white flowers. So I think that's a good array of cards for the whole span of the year. And I hope my recipient will enjoy them. So next I'm going to make a custom paper box, just the right size. So I measured my stack, the height, depth, and width of my stack of cards and envelopes. And I've marked out onto a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, just the right size for my custom paper box. I'm going to draw on some little flaps so I don't accidentally cut those off. And if you measure in advance, the box is going to be exactly the right size. So I've got 2 pieces of paper here, 100-pound plain white cardstock, and I'm just going to start by cutting off all these pieces that I don't need. And I've just got these, basically the size of the stack of the cards, plus the border around the edge is the height of the stack. So the math doesn't have to be super complicated. My stack is about 1.5 inches tall, so that's why I've got 1.5 inches all the way around. And that 4.5 by 6 was plenty to fit the cards and envelopes. So I'm making sure that my little tabs will move freely. And I'm cutting off a little triangle on the edge of the tab. I don't know that that's really necessary, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. And once I've got all that trimmed down, the next step is to score. So if you have a scoreboard, you could use the scoreboard. My scoreboard is not quite big enough for this project. My box is a little bit bigger than the scoreboard. So I am just going to use a ruler. So I'm going to do 1/2 at a time, and I'm going to use my bone folder, although you could use an ink pen with the tip retracted. And I'm going to put the ruler just inside the line on this bottom, because I want the bottom to be just a smidge smaller. And I'm going to put it just on the outside of an imaginary line for the top. And I'm going to go ahead and score all 4 sides. So on the bottom, I'm just inside the line that I drew. I'm going to go ahead and fold up the edges, fold in the tabs, and then you just need to attach the tabs to build the bottom of the box. Now, you could use glue, you could use double-sided tape. I'm just going to use Scotch tape. It is invisible after all, and it really does not show up very much on this box. So I'm just going to hold the tab in place and wrap the tape around the corner. You do want to make sure that your corner is square when you're doing this, because it will not get more square later. So now the bottom of my box is built, and I'm going to take the piece of paper for the top of the box. I'm going to score just outside that imaginary line. I didn't draw on this half of the paper, of course, and just use my bone folder and my ruler to score all 4 sides. And then I'm going to fold up each of the sides and then fold up the flaps. The flaps are very small on the top, so I kind of pulled those down and folded them against the edge of the table. So again, we're going to use tape to hold the flaps in place. Could use decorative washi tape or whatever. But the key here is to put the top onto the box bottom and then apply the tape. That way, that top is precisely the right size to go with the bottom that you built. So it is very much a custom box, and it is precisely the right fit of top and bottom. So once I've got all 4 corners taped, that custom box is finished, and it is the perfect size for my particular stack of cards, and it was very quick and easy to do, and it fits precisely. Now to fancy up the presentation a little bit, I am going to get out some printed tissue paper, and I'm going to fold that up so it'll fit inside my little box. And I'm going to stick the tissue paper in, then stick the cards in on top of the tissue paper. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my self-adhesive greetings in for my recipient to use on the cards. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for joining me today.